class-conscious, highly hierarchical society. During the reign of Augustus, social distinctions became exceptionally prominent in the governmental structure. There was a deep rift in Roman society, dividing the patricians from the plebeians. Patricians were the wealthy families of noble birth, able to trace their ancestry back to the original clans. They commanded privileged positions within the state. Conversely, the plebeians were the have-nots of society, the unprivileged citizens excluded from higher political, legal, economic, and religious rights. The grievances of the plebeians and their attempts to gain equality with patricians persisted for over 200 years of the early republic. In 509 BC, the last Roman kings were overthrown, a form of republican government comprised of two patrician magistrates, or consuls, a senate, and a people's assembly replaced the monarchy.
There were two consuls elected by the assemblies through popular vote. They were the chief and military and civil magistrates. Initially, the office was only open to the patricians. In 367 BC, the position was open to plebeian candidates. Minimum age requirements were established for all magistrate positions, and with the cursus honorum in 180 BC, consuls had to be over 42 years of age. A consul retained the supreme executive authority over the military, civil and judicial systems that the kings experienced. They initiated and administrated legislation, served as generals in military campaigns. The power to command the army was particularly implied, and they represented Rome in foreign affairs. In times of emergency, when the constitution was suspended, the consuls could appoint or serve as dictator for up to 6 months. A consul also had the power to veto the act of the other, and also had the right to take auspices in order to see if the gods approved important public acts. Originally, the office was held for 1 year, and under normal circumstances, a Roman could only serve in this capacity once every 10 years. However, during the imperial period, the defining terms of the consulship were far less strict, and the length of service could be as little as only a few months.
As Rome expanded, there was a need for more magistrates to help the consuls administer the state. By the end of the 4th century, the Roman magistrate had developed into the structure it would keep until the end of the Republic.
At the summit of Roman society was the emperor, followed by consuls who managed the Senate, then senators who made the laws. The consuls, of which there were 2, were the chief magistrates who convened and presided over the Senate and assemblies. Underneath them were 8 praetors who could convene the Senate and assemblies and assume the duties of the consuls when they were absent from Rome. Primarily, these praetors were just judges in law courts. 2 censors who conducted census of citizens and property assessments for tax purposes. They granted state contracts and revised lists of senators. 4 adars, 2 of which were required to be plebeian, who supervised public games and places, as well as the grain supply of Rome. 10 tribunes, all of which had to be plebeian, as the purpose of this office was to protect plebeians from the arbitrary actions of magistrates. The tribunes could veto the act of any magistrate and stopped any act of administration. They could also convene the Senate and assemblies and initiate legislation. By law, they were sacrosanct, meaning anyone who assaulted them physically could be immediately and summarily killed. Oh, and 20 quaestors who administered finances of the state treasury and served in various capacities in the provinces.
While in theory, this was a democratic government, much like the democracy of Athens, it contained highly oligarchic elements. The Roman government contained 3 branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch. The executive branch contained the consuls, as well as other positions of power within the city, such as mayors, tax collectors, and city police. The judicial branch contained 6 judges elected every 2 years. The most powerful body of the legislative branch was the Senate.
The Senate was a council of nobles, male, land-owning citizens, all ex-magistrates who served for life. Originally it contained only 100 members, but gradually this magnified until Augustus reduced the Senate to around 600. The Senate was an advisory body to the consuls, however, in effect, it was the chief governmental body. The Senate controlled public finances and foreign affairs, assigned military campaigns, as well as debating and passing decrees that would be submitted to the assemblies.
The assemblies of the Roman government were theoretically comprised of all full Roman male citizens. However, to vote it was imperative that the citizens attend the convening of the assembly in person. No debates took place in the assemblies, and votes were counted in groups, meaning that the vote for a group was determined by the majority of individual votes within the group. The 3 Roman assemblies were the assembly of the Curae, the assembly of the Centuries, and the assembly of the Tribes. The Curate assembly was the oldest assembly, originating from the time of kings, and had mostly ceremonial and clan functions. Rome was divided into Curae, and the citizens would vote in accordance with their Curae of residence. The assembly of the Centuries served many functions, electing consuls, praetors, centres, and declaring war, as well as serving the court to appeal for a citizen. The assembly of the Tribes elected all other magistrates and voted on laws. The Concilium Plebis was a subgroup of this assembly, and contained only plebeians, elected to magistrates, open only to plebeians.
In Roman times, 2 informal factions existed in the upper classes. There were the populares, or the party of the people, which was mostly made up from the assembly of the tribes and the tribunes. This faction mostly appealed to the needs of the common people. There was also the optimates, which was the party of the best men, or the aristocrats. This was mostly made up of members of the Senate, and it supported wealthy, noble families with its conservative policies. We can relate these 2 factions closely with the left and right wings of political groups today. After Augustus became the first Roman emperor in 27 BC, the consuls lost most of their powers and responsibilities. Officially, it was still the highest office of the state, but with the emperor's superior imperium, they were merely a symbol of Rome's republican heritage.
1 month after Julius Caesar declares himself dictator of the Roman Empire, he was assassinated on the 15th of March, 44 BC, by members of the Roman Senate. After his death, 3 men rose to power: Mark Antony, Lepidus, and Octavian, and they formed a new triumvirate. Caesar before them had held absolute power for himself, so these 3 headed a republican faction against him, and there was peace in Rome until 37 BCE. In 31 BCE, Octavian defeated Antony and Cleopatra. After this, Octavian rose to power and was given the name Augustus. He changed the number of Senate members from 1,000 to 800, of mostly his own supporters. He was voted consul for 5 years in a row, but on the 5th year he declined. Because the public wanted him in power so much, he was given the authority of the tribune for life, and voted him to lead for 10 years, which he gladly accepted. This does not only give him veto power and sole rule, but it also allows him to directly support the people.
Augustus' system stayed in Rome for more than 200 years, in which this time was called Pax Romana, the Roman peace. Augustus' reforms of the Roman government system were crucial, even though in the long term they were disastrous for the representative institutions. He had reduced the size of the army to make it more manageable and to remove its influence in civic affairs. He also established a Praetorian Guard of 9,000 soldiers for his defense, assembled from those who were born solely in Italy. He also stabilized the economy in the Mediterranean and made the area almost self-sufficient. He proclaimed that he had reformed the Republic and made sure his actions received the approval of the Senate. But In reality, all the power laid with him, as he was still consul, chief priest of the civic religion, tribune, and public censor. This was true for all the emperors that followed. His power was absolute, and he had it so without becoming a dictator.